Okay, hey, we're live. So, very interesting topic today. I think Mohit has been having a few sessions talking about debugging production issues and more on a technical aspect. Today, I got Abhimanyu to talk about some of the operational and human aspect of when things go down in production, and what are the things that teams do to prevent that to happen again. How to do postmortem. All of these things we'll discuss. I think I will start with the first thing is I think very interesting. Whenever these somebody joins a backend team in any company after college, back in my college time, seniors used to tell stories about यार आज मेरी ऑन कॉल पे ड्यूटी है तो बहुत बड़ी बात
Yeah,
है मैं ऑन कॉल पे हूँ
yeah,
तो व्हाट्स द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ ऑन कॉल व्हाट इज ऑन कॉल एंड व्हाई डू वी
right,
नीड ऑन कॉल इन बैकएंड टीम्स.
right, right. Actually, yeah, on call is something which has gone a little, I may say, infamous thing. कि कई बार लोग बोलते हैं उस कंपनी को मत ज्वाइन करना वहां तो ऑन कॉल पे रख देते हैं तो वन
Right.
आई वुड मे बी फर्स्ट टॉक अबाउट कि है क्या भाई ऑन कॉल व्हाई इज इट सो ट्रीटेड और इज इट डज इट इवन नीड टू बी ट्रीटेड राइट. So on-call essentially is rooted in, it's not a term native to software industry alone. It's a term rooted very deeply into the medical industry for hundreds of years, and actually even the militaries of the world. Uh, which means basically on-call. What that simply means is that if we are having any systems where there has to be someone available at a moment's notice. So for example, जैसे दो countries के बीच में अगर war situation ऐसा था कि अभी war है नहीं, but यार कुछ हो सकता है. So then there are like
Right.
this might be a fun thing to know that ये जो fighter pilots होते हैं वो tarmac पे like in the advanced air bases there will be few pilots with their fighter jets engine on sitting in the cockpit where they can take off within 30 seconds, right? That if there is, let's say,
Right.
if the frontier radars detect let's say any hostile aircrafts entering the space, then within 30 seconds these aircrafts will be in the air, right? So even these pilots are called on call, right? That if there is a like from the higher command, if there is an order to get airborne, then like say there can be 5 fighter jets in the air within 30 seconds, right? So it started
Right.
from the the defense forces, then in the medical space always that if there is like there are ICUs or let's say there are critical ICUs, uh, and then the hospitals need that any patient there can enter a state there they need to be given CPR, right? There can be an emergency at any point. So there will be some doctors on the call all the time, doctors or the medical emergency staff. The 24/7 there has to be someone who is available within very short span of time. If the requirement be. Of course, as a software engineer, we do not expect कि रात में 3:30 बजे मुझे कोई कॉल करेगा and within 30 seconds, like a fighter pilot, I have to be on my laptop and doing something, right? That's not expected. I start my day at 10. I end my day at whatever time I do. But once that's done, one shouldn't keep expectation from me. But of course, then when we talk about any large business, right? Any business which is doing things which is pretty critical, of course, like any company might not be as critical as fighting a war for the country or, saving someone's life. But still, actually, now software, given it is so ingrained in our day-to-day life as well, there actually might be software systems where people's life depend on that, right? Uh,
Right.
like actually even if we talk about let's say medical systems, the largest hospitals, majority of their things run on certain software, right? And let's say if some of
Right.
their softwares are cloud hosted, if systems are not working someone might even die, right? So now if you are at that end, like actually as they say that with great power comes great responsibility, right? So now as software has become so powerful, so it also comes with a great responsibility. So let's say let take example of Amazon. Now, while
Right.
Amazon, as a typical software engineer of Amazon, doesn't need to be on such a high alert mode, but someone from the entire tech team has to be on this high alert mode. Where let's say for example, if Amazon's payment things, when you go and make payment, if it starts failing, what that would mean is that as long as it is down, the
Right.
Amazon cannot make any money, right? There will be no revenue for that period for
Right.
Amazon, right?
Correct.
And which might be surprising, but that might be in the scale of millions per minute and might be even higher. It's hard for me to estimate that, but it might be that if it is down for a minute, Amazon might lose millions of dollars, right? How do companies solve for that? Again, that all the fighter pilots of India They cannot be sitting in their cockpits all the time, right? That if they need to take off, but they can say that 5 of them can do that at a time, and this is rotating. That let's say today this person will be on call for 8 hours, and fine, in that entire period there might be nothing, they might never need to take off, but if they need to, then they are available, right? They will get off duty and some other pilots will then get on call, and then they will be available, right? So given now we have large teams, Amazon might have 10,000 engineers, so they might put a small chunk, and it will be that let's say in a month, like of course sitting in a fighter jet with engine on, it's not easy, it's very hot in there, right? With your entire gear. So but however, if I ask someone that can you do that once in a month for 8 hours, right? That is something we can do fine, in a month, rest of the days I have not that intensive tasks to do, but once in a 8 month I will be there, that if it is required I am there. So that is what essentially on call means. No one remains on call forever. It would be more of that once in a week or once in a month you have to be on call, but then it is expected from you that you will have immediate access to your devices. You will be in connectivity, you will always remain in a high speed internet connectivity, so that whatever you need to do, you can deliver on that. And if there is any alert, you are watching the alerts. If there is any alert, you will be able to act on it. What you will be able to do on that, we cannot say. Like of course, as I said, a fighter pilot who is on call, he might be sitting in his maybe what we bought Rafale recently, right? So the person might be sitting in a Rafale. If there is any intrusion, he will get on airborne, he will try to defend, but whether he will be able to or not, whether he will call for more reinforcement, we'll see, but at least there is someone who is able to respond to the threat.
Right. Understood. Actually, on call, e-com companies, I think, becomes generally very important in these sale kind of scenarios. So, at Target, I used to see there used to be this weekend called CFBM, so Cyber Friday, Black, I think something else.
Black Monday. So,
Black Friday, actually. Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Yeah. So. During that period, I think that weekend used to earn more money than any other particular quarter used to earn. Any quarter would not earn money as much as that weekend used to earn. And that time, I think we used to have a bigger on-call team. Generally, there are 3-4 people on call, but during that time, there used to be like every team had to dedicate one person for on-call, like any component if it fails. Because at that time, every 15 minutes, $1 billion revenue is getting made. If anything fails, then it's a big difficulty for people. So
no, this is also, I think I can relate that with again the defense things that for example in the Indian Air Force probably there will be, even if there is no skirmishes, there might be just maybe 1-2 fighter pilots on call, that then on command they can get airborne in 30 seconds. When there are heightened tensions, or let's say if there is some geopolitical instability, then there might be much larger volume of fighter pilots on call, because they perceive that there can be something, a bigger offensive at any point in time, right? So same as that on a Cyber Monday, on a Black Friday, on a Cyber Monday, etc. Now this might be new for our audiences, but this is, you may say this is similar to, let's say, pre-Diwali sale of Flipkart in US and the western parts of the world.
Big Billion Day and Amazon Festival, all that stuff happens.
Right. So in US or in Europe, just before the Christmas, people get on a shopping spree, and then there is this Black Friday where there are very heavy discounts on everything, and then people just go crazy buying.
Right. So next question is that obviously a lot of people get on call duty, and I have been on a lot of on call duties. I have never actually had to face any incident. So on call is like, अच्छा चलो ठीक है, रात को आज जागना है, on call है. But now in that unfortunate situation where you are on call and something actually goes down, then as a level-headed person, how do you go about, like, what are the steps we should follow? What should we keep in mind?
Right. Yeah, actually, that is one, as they say, again, I'm feeling that I'm giving too many references to, armed forces here. But I think in this situation, this on-call or, production down situation, a lot of things relate very well with that. That one of the core, very important quality to possess is being able to perform with the same efficiency or, very, very high efficiency, even under the situation of extreme pressure, right? Where, there is a lot at stake, you know
Right.
that right actions at this moment, even every single moment, every single second, every single minute has extremely high value. Right actions might lead to huge value, and at the
Right.
same time wrong actions might also lead to extreme amount of damage to the organization that you have, be it reputation, be it revenue, anything. But these are
Right.
such environments, right? And of course, very candidly, it's not everyone is not cut for that. uh, However, as they often say, that true leaders are tested in the toughest times, right? In the peacetime, of course, it's hard to know who is the best general of the army. When there's peacetime, you cannot say, right? But
Right.
who were the best generals of the army is gets tested in the hardest of the time. So in such situations, the same thing happens, that the best leaders get tested in such time. I think one of the most important thing, when in such situations is being being calm, right? Being able to have this bigger picture, that there is a situation, there is something that has gone down. Of course, if something has gone down, something in the past was not perfect, right?
Right.
But right now, like priority of thinking, it's very important.
Right.
Like prioritizations of what should be done at this point in time is one of the most important skill to possess, to kind of be a hero in such situations, right? And not a
Right.
person who actually further damaged it. Which is, what is the prioritization? Now let's say something is broken. Is my priority figuring out that why did it break, or who broke it, or starting the blame that this person did this, that is why this happened? No, that no is not supposed to be the priority.
Right.
This is still a good, valuable thing to do in a right way at a different time, so that it doesn't
Right.
happen again, right? But at this moment, the priority has to be what is broken, and how we can
Right.
make it less broken, if not perfectly fixed, right? Even that is high
Right.
value, right? Let's say if 100% of the orders are not getting through, let's say in an e-commerce company, let's say you are Amazon, you are in leadership, or you are an engineer at Amazon, and it's a Cyber Monday, or let's say it's pre-Diwali sale, and the systems have gone down. 100% of the orders are not going through, and that within 5 minutes you can do something which will make sure that 70% of orders start getting through. Even that is great, right? And
Right.
then you can
Right.
tell
Right.
that, all right, here is another thing, that like here are the patches which could be done in another 30 minutes, which will make sure 100% of the orders start getting through, right? Now
Right.
the third priority would be that then when it's all over, we know that lives have been saved. Then we figure out that exactly what are the series of events which led to this. And
Right.
then, like, this could also be done 1 week afterwards, right? This can also be done 1 week afterwards, so I think that is one, like, often people fall into this. Some of people who are in the audience might have been in the situation where the person who is leading is kind of panicking and asking, who did this, who did that, and why did you do this? That is absolutely the worst kind of thing. Like, if you are seeing this, actually, even if you are a junior person, it might be
Right.
a lot of value to just calm down the environment. That, all right, we will get to that. Right now priority is fixing this. Let's talk about how do we improve the situation here. And even
Right.
putting it out there, like, one thing that I do believe is that you can do that even if you're an intern. Trust me, like, that is one very beautiful thing about the good product companies and the world of technology, that even as an intern, if you put it across that, all right, here is what is broken, here is what we are trying to achieve in next 15 minutes, do everyone
Right.
agree to that? Even if it might be your engineering manager with 15 years of experience, and if they say that yes, this is what we agree to, and what caused this, what series of events led to this, we will look at that maybe after 1 hour, once we have addressed this, right? So
Right.
even if you are an intern, like, have the confidence to say the right things and get things back on track. If you see that, and of course, as a leader, it is your job. You cannot all consider yourself a leader if you are not able to prioritize things properly, and if you are not able to focus on the things which are most important right now. Being calm, being more mindful, that what am I thinking, what am I acting, what am I saying, and are all these things going to improve the situation in the most quick way? and in the most outcome driven way. That is something I think that every leader has to be mindful of. And if you feel like, actually trust me, it's very natural. Let's say as a founder, I'm founder of a company, or I am the, let's say, head of engineering for a company, where I know that every single minute millions of dollars are being lost. It is very natural, it is human to get agitated in that situation. But instead of, if you know that you are agitated, instead of jumping into things, right, then it is okay to take 2 minutes to calm yourself down, 5 minutes to calm yourself down, put your thoughts, have clarity of thoughts, that what you want to execute, and then get on to things, right? Those 2 minutes are not wasted. Those 2 minutes might create a lot of value.
Right. Then the next thing I would like to talk about, which is actually title of today's talk as well, is about war rooms. So a lot of scenarios I have seen war rooms getting formed. So it might not. Sometimes it's like on call you find out some error and then okay we have to fix it. Maybe you put a patch and then you have to properly fix it next 2-3 days. Another kind of scenario I have seen. So at Zomato we were using some order IDs with an integer and we were about to run out. So then a war room was created that okay within 1 week we have to change everything to strings everywhere because at the current volume we were doing and the volume was growing also, within a month it will all turn into, it will overflow integer. So before that you have to make sure. So sometimes like there is 1 month long war room also, but sometimes 1 week long war room that okay we have patched something right now but let's figure a proper solution. So what's the situation? What's the atmosphere in a war room? You might have been in war rooms also before. So what's the mindset? What's the pressure? And what good practices you must follow when you are in a team which is working in a high pressure scenario for 1 week at a time or something like that?
Right. Yeah, actually, it's a very, I think, not everyone gets to experience that, but those who do, I would say they are all very, very lucky, because as they say that the best war stories are written in the trenches, right? These are the times which kind of you learn a lot as well, and like amazing memories, a different kind of adrenaline rush, right? So that all is there. I think, however, at the same time, it needs a lot of great leadership and level-headedness to be able to execute under pressure, right? So some of the things that I see that which must be avoided as the highest priority is, which is that under pressure, often some people end up, doing things which are, there is a word, a funny word for it as well. I'm not able to recall that right now, but which essentially mean, like something similar to, let's say, cascading failure. That under pressure, you are doing things which are causing further damage than actually improving anything, right? Just because
compounding
you don't know what you are doing. Compounding the issue, right? So most important thing is just try to make sure that you are not furthering the damage, right? It's okay to kind of say that this is fine, this can remain as it is, we don't know how to improve this, so we are not going to touch this, and whatever we are doing, we'll do it in a way which definitely doesn't cause any further damage. Data loss prevention, which is like again, you must make sure that it is kind of a sub part of preventing any further damage, that you do not make any changes which cause certain data damage, right? Because data is gold. It is the for any tech company, data is what we all live on, right? So you cannot lose that. Imagine if let's say if Amazon loses all the past data, then Amazon probably as a business would vanish, right? They will not have any upper hand over any other company, because they know about me. They know that what I buy, what I do not buy. That is why they are able to get me to buy more, right? They are able to take out of decisions basis, data of millions of or billions of people that they have. So ensuring that, you are not doing anything which will lead to further data loss, or if there is data being lost already, then first thing you have to do is that you have to kind of prevent that, right? Another important thing is that often, again, in the stress environment, it is possible that we start doing too many things, that do this, and then when we are trying to run it, we do not know what is the difference, what thing is making, and then like I have changed 10 variables at the same time, and then I do not know that which of them are actually improving, which of them are not improving but rather degrading. I only know net, right? So another right way to do it is that change one thing at a time, see that whether that change is doing the improvement that you intended from it or not, right? do not get into, do not get overwhelmed and start doing 10 things at a time. Even if it is a team, as a team as well, I think it is important to compartmentalize. And let's say when there are 5 or 7 people trying to do some things together, so you compartmentalize, you tell them that you are only doing this, I am only doing this, and these two are sandboxed, so we know that how they are working, right? So doing one thing at a time is also super important. Another one is that one should document this. I have had personal experience of a counter case that the system was down, 2-3 guys in the war room, they did bunch of stuff, and it is working right now. And when they were asking, what did you do, can you tell us that what all have you done, after which it is working? Because can it go down again? Because like it is magically working, but the core issue might still not be fixed. It is working maybe just because there is lesser traffic right now, and the moment traffic comes back again, it will go down again. And they were able, like, we don't know, we were just trying out a bunch of things, we had run some 20-30 commands, and it just started working, right? So this is a very bad state to be in, right? That let's say your system was down, suddenly it came up, and bunch of people were doing certain things, but they do not know what all they have done. There's no trail of that, right? What all they have changed, what all commands they have run, right? And then it's even worst situation to be in, because you do not know what is working is going to continue working, or it will crumble down again, right? So it is very, very important that you document every single thing that you are doing. When you are in the war room, it is super, super important that you are documenting every single thing you are doing, so that you might be doing a lot of experimentations, you might be trying out things. That happens in the war rooms all the time, right? That we just, let's say I see that system is down, the monitoring is in place, but let's say some of the variables we are not able to monitor. I will say, just try to increase the, let's say, RAM of all our servers, and maybe that works, right? Maybe it is it is all in a deadlock because the RAM is low, right? But I should document that I have tried increasing RAM. After that, these were the system monitoring readings, right? So whatever changes you are making, or I might say that I'm gonna, let's say, increase the U limit, right? So like in any Linux operating system, there is a limit set that how many parallel network connection a machine can open, right? And that might be the bottleneck, right? One might say that because my U limit, which is the number of parallel network connection, is set to, let's say, just 32 or 64. So that is why my system is kind of overwhelmed. So maybe I may say that I have enough RAM. I can say that my U limit can be 256 instead of 32, and that might just make everything work. It is all clogged on the network. If I make that wider, then it will start working. But again, if I am changing U limit, I should document that across all the servers I have changed U limit from 32 to 264, and whether that worked, whether that didn't work. After that, right after that, there might be some consequence that you changed the U limit, and then suddenly your RAM uses have spiked, right? But documenting is super, super important. Keep documenting every single thing you are doing. What observations? This is again, those of you who might have seen Chernobyl, right?
Yes.
Right. So, like in nuclear reactors, for example, if you are trying some things out, the assistants were insisting that like, let's follow the manual. Let's keep documenting everything we are doing. And the boss, of course, said, like, forget it. I'm saying just do it. And that is a disaster. That actually, this simple thing, not following documentation and not documenting things you are doing, might even lead to, disasters like Chernobyl. Fortunately, of course, there are even software systems at nuclear power plants as well. So, if someone is kind of, in the war room, actually, like there might be a software engineer who might be fighting a war room story in a nuclear power plant as well, right? So it is equally, like, it's harder to imagine and perceive, right? But there might be software systems which might lead to a disaster like Chernobyl as well. And there might be, even maybe any software engineer can end up in that situation, right? So it is important that you follow the documentation, that what all have been done before, you document what you are doing, so that better decisions can be taken every single moment right after your actions as well. That's, I think, super, super important.
I think the takeaway is actually not to give up the basic scientific principle that when you change one thing at a time and then you document what was changed and what was the effect, then you change the next thing. I mean, whatever is the pressure, but that principle should not be, that's not negotiable.
Right.
So that's
on that actually, trust me on this, that do not leave the scientific method, even if there is anyone sitting on top of your head and continuously shouting, why are you so slow? Why are you so slow? Don't leave the scientific method on this. I have a very funny anecdote. One of my ex-colleague, and like back then the project we were working on, and the person who was on top of all of us, you may call it the CTO or someone, he said this guy was like, we used to make fun of him that this guy is so cool that even if the CTO is sitting on his head and shouting, he will just calmly be on his laptop, and if he's asking that what are you doing, he will just say, I am reading the logs. That like very calmly, dude, I am not gonna run 50 random commands that you might be insisting just go ahead and run. I will follow the systematic process because I know that is what is going to lead us to right outcome. That is the fastest way to restore the systems. Just doing random things, just trying out random things without understanding what they do, what that might lead to, can only end up in even worse situation than making anything better. So even being able to remain calm and stick to the systematic process of fixing things is, I think, super important, no matter what people might be shouting, no matter. And it's natural. Understand this, that when there's a war, when there are bullets flying, there will be some people who will panic. That's natural. But a good leader, despite people panicking, they will be able to hold the grounds, plan out a strategy out of the situation, and lead people out of it.
Makes sense. Next, we have, I asked some people who have been in war rooms and on call, and I asked them what are some of the common terms. So I asked across like people in the community and friends, and I got a list of terms. I would like to go through some quick explanations on them for people who have never been in a situation they might have not come across these terms. So what are these and what do they mean? They are very fancy sounding terms. I think first one is kill switch. So what is a kill switch for? What's the purpose?
Right. Yeah, kill switch, of course, the name, it's always self-explanatory. So again, let me give a analogy from the front lines, war front lines, right? Now, let's say you have a bunch of, you may call them your armory or your soldiers, and there's a new kind of armory, that you want to deploy, right? But that it's not really tested. We are in Second World War. There is a lot of machines that we are trying to deploy that might might not perform as we expect them, right? So I would want to have a way to kill them if they are kind of counterproductive to what I want, right? So this is something that companies do, that let's say if there is a new aggressive feature that we want to roll out, and it is very hard to fully test it in the production environment, right? And there are certain risks that it might affect the system negatively. So let's say it got deployed, and right after that we noticed that it is maybe high probability that it might be because of this new thing that we deployed, right? So now what are our options? Our option might be that now let's revert back all the changes that were done for this feature. Now that is going to take a lot of time. That cannot be done in 30 seconds, right? So while developing the feature itself, companies keep a kill switch that, let's say, this entire feature will get deactivated if there is a certain record set in the database, right? That the moment, let's say there could be a simple product feature name and true or false against it. This entire feature will work or be on production and only if this flag is set to true. If I make it false, it is as good as this entire code not existing, right? So this has to be, however, part of the development. If something is built, then you cannot suddenly inject a kill switch.
Precaution measure, right? Basically.
It's a precaution measure when you are developing the feature itself, right? So companies do that. Any experienced, seasoned leader, if they see that there is a possibility of this affecting anything negatively once it goes to the production, so in the development itself, he will say that let's have a kill switch, so that when we put it on production, after 5 minutes, if something is going wrong, production went down, we will just change this to false, and this will be pulled out. Then fine, our feature will not be on production anymore, but no one can tell us that we took the system down, right? So that is what a kill switch is. If you ever feel, if you are developing anything where you see any risks, then you should definitely try to incorporate a kill switch, and then kill switch can be removed over time. Let's say if it went on production, and then for quite some time we know that it is fairly stable, and it is additional code baggage that we have. We know that this kill switch is never needed. Then fine, like in future refactoring, the kill switch can be removed, or it can be kept as well. That no harm. That it is, if there is no additional overhead, it can be kept forever. But yes, that is what kill switches are about.
Right. Right. At Zomato also we used to try out actually kill switches before December, because that's when peak used to happen.
Right.
Like that 25th December, 31st, that period, maximum orders.
Right.
So we should test out things like if say review service is down. So we can turn off reviews, and still people, like when they search restaurants, they will see listing, but they will not see the review of items, but it will continue to work. Because generally if review service is down, then it brings down the menu service as well, because menu has to query the review to show that review thing. But we need to have a feature to disable reviews whenever you want to. It's interesting.
Right.
Another term I think gets thrown around a lot in war room scenarios, database rollback. So how helpful is that? Is it something commonly used?
Yeah. No, so database rollback, again, the term itself is self-explanatory, that most of the times, of course, as we mentioned, that most of the larger systems, they're all on top of data is their blood, right? They are just working on top of data. So when we are saying that data is the blood, and then any new feature might change the schema, might create new records, might kind of have certain structural change to the database, right? Now, what if that this new feature caused big change to data, and now that is what is causing a lot of issues, right? How do you change that? Now, let's say, like a simple, more concrete example. Let's say my new feature, to build my new feature, I changed schema of certain tables, right? But I was a very shabby developer, and I didn't realize that the same tables, schema, etc., is also being used by a lot of other features, right? And I just pushed it in. Now, like all those services which were using the older schema, which were not refactored, they're down now. Now, of course, my one option could be now go and change all those other features, right? Which is, of course, is not possible in 30 seconds, or maybe even 10 minutes, or even in hours. It might take weeks or months to do that, right? So my only option then is that, again, I do the kill switch on my feature that is stopped. And then I also have to revert the database back to where it was, so that other things can continue working, right? So that is generally when the database rollback come into the play. Fortunately, most of the modern databases provide a very smooth way to do that. Like, be it MySQL, be it, Postgres, etc. There's always a way where you can kind of, like, basically your database is not just, snap in time. You can have snapshots of the databases taken at an interval, right? Or there are a lot of like whatever commands have been run, you can kind of run the reverse commands and revert back all the changes that have been done to whichever state you want to go, right? So that is what database rollback does. Of course, in the process of database rollbacks, there is always a possibility of losing some data. Now, let's say certain database changes were done, and then it was live for 10-15 minutes, and certain additional data was collected in this time, and then you are doing a database rollback. So that might lead to like whatever data was collected in 10-15-30 minutes, you might end up losing that. But then there is a kind of a vetting need to be done, that what is better. Is it okay to lose 10 minutes of data? Might be a few hundreds or few thousands of the records, but we ensure that all the systems go back, become stable. Or you might take a snapshot of this database right now and then immediately roll back, so that you do not really lose it. It might be lost in the data that is in production, but the actions in this time are also stored in the snapshot that you have taken, and you might see that if you want to kind of refactor them and put them back in the database. But yeah, data, that is how database rollbacks work. Might not be the best strategy all the times. You will have to vet out that whether doing the rollback gives us more value, or not doing the rollback gives us more value.
Right. And that also means when we are choosing databases, the ability to do rollback is also an important factor to consider.
Yes, absolutely. Because when you are building the software on that day, it might not be a consideration at all. But now, let's say you are a multi-billion-dollar company, and then you are at a stage where every single second you are losing millions of dollars, and whether your database supports rollback or not might lead to, like at that point in time, it might be, very, very important consideration. Again, this is where I think, experience and, knowledge comes into play of the leaders, that, they would be able to say that this is not something that we might need now. We might not even need it for next 6 months or a year, but we might need it when we, 2 years down the line, and it might be a very expensive, issue to have if our database doesn't support rollbacks, and to what extent it supports rollback, right?
Right. Then, apart from data, similar term I think gets thrown around for the code base itself. A lot of times, senior engineer says, just check out last commit and try to see.
Right.
What does that mean? Does that work well or not?
Right. No, so actually, even binary search, which is often an algorithm that we use for the fundamental data structure algorithm problems, but even applying binary search on commits is also a very powerful tool. So basically, now let's say suddenly you realized that my systems have gone down, right? Now it cannot happen without any input, right? There has to be something that changes somewhere. That is when things start breaking, right? So check out last commit would be the obvious one. That let's see, just before things went down, what was the change made to our code running on the production? Let's see that. Is there something that might have caused it? It might not be, maybe nothing in the last commit caused it, but there is a high probability that whatever is the last code added to the code base is what caused it, right? Now there might be an intern who just, he didn't know his stuff and, just wrote some fancy code and, that got pushed into the production without much proper review. Or it might be, a new feature who was pushed by the most elite tech team of the company, which is causing that. It could be anything, right? But seeing that what was the last thing, and even then, like often there's another thing that the last push might have 20 commits in it, right? There might be a PR which just got merged, but there were way too many commits to it, right? So again, doing a binary search amongst all of them, that we know that in this deployment there were these 60 commits which went in. Which of them might have caused it? We don't know, but quickly you can do a binary search on them. Let's start with the first, the last commit, right? Is it causing that? If I just revert that, is the systems coming back in? No. Let's try the last one. Is system coming back in? No. Then let's try the middle one. And then within just 3-4 iterations, we would know exactly which code line caused it. That is about, kind of going through the last commit and figuring out what might have caused the issue.
Right. Bisecting the Git history,
basically. And then, instead you might just be trying everything, and that might take a lot of time. And this way, just 2-3 iterations, you will end up to which might have caused it. And it could also be done on your local machine, right? It doesn't you do not need to deploy everything on production, but you can just do it in your local machine. Within 5 minutes, you would know that exactly which commit caused the issue.
Right. Actually, my experience is like when I have been on call, this is very important because I don't always have context of all the code that was written in the last, say, 1 month or something. So I have to go by the commits, and then I will find the faulty commit, and then I will read that code and understand, okay, what happened. Otherwise, I don't have understanding of the entire code. 30 people are writing code. Every day 30 commits are coming in.
Right. So I think one important thing is that good leaders know that they are not Superman. No one is Superman, right? One might say that, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to read the code in detail, and then I will figure out what is going wrong. So, understand that you are not Superman. You cannot read thousands of lines of code within few minutes and understand that what is going on. It's okay. I don't know. It's a black box thing. I don't know what is going on. I will just try out which commits make system work, which commits do not make system work. And when I have zeroed down that this was the commit which might be 100 lines of code or 50 lines of code, after which system doesn't work and before the system works, then I will probably just go and read those 50 lines and try to maybe get my head around it, or maybe try to get inputs from someone who might know that better. But understanding, do not try to be a Superman when the systems are down.
Correct. Then there is another term often gets used is like, as a mechanism for recovery is like, let's throttle our request. So what does that mean when we are saying this?
Yeah. So throttle basically, is essentially, it's also a word in the vehicles as well, right? That throttle, and it like as an English word, it means that to reduce the speed of engine, right? By closing the throttle, that is what it means. That throttle, basically what throttle in automobile does is, it's a part in any automobile. What it does is that, when you press it or when you reduce the intake, it essentially reduces the intake of the fuel to the engine, which is definitely going to lead to slower throughput from the engine, right? Uh, exactly same thing in the tech world as well, that if your backend systems are the engine, and let's say the request being sent to them or the load being sent to them is kind of, what pushes them to, the outcome that we expect from them, you can reduce that, right? You can say that, these shouldn't be sent at this rapid speed. We are able to see that our systems are not able to serve to that. So let's throttle that. What that means is that, let's say I may say that right now my servers are experiencing RPM of say 1,000 requests per minute, right? My servers are experiencing 1,000 requests per minute, and I'm able to see that the systems are not able to handle that. So what I can do is that I can, like, if there is any way I have that to kind of throttle that, to say that let's reduce the speed. Let's say I might just simply say that from the clients, from where I am getting too many requests, I'll put a captcha on them, which will force them to reduce the speed at which they are, kind of sending the request. Some of you might have sent a captcha popping up on Google search, that you are doing a Google search and then it shows a captcha, which is in a way also Google is throttling the request. They feel that there are very high volume of searches coming from your side, which they do not see as natural, which might lead to system degradation on their end. So they will say solve this captcha first and then they will let you search. Right? So this is essentially different ways of throttling the request. And then of course in the later tiers, there can be ways of purely technical way of throttling the request. If you know that one of my services is calling another service and this call is happening at a very high rate, then you can just say that let's reduce it, and that might get our systems back up.
Right. Actually, very interestingly, I mean, these days, even these cloud providers like AWS, etc., they sometimes come with out-of-the-box throttling, debouncing services in the load balancer itself. Like you just install a load balancer with throttle service available, so you turn on, turn off throttle automatically. Very useful. And then finally, very common term gets talked about a lot. So sometimes techies are discussing that we are under a distributed denial of service attack. So what essentially does a denial of service attack mean, and what can you do to also recover from something like this?
Yeah. So DOS, in the technical words, its acronym is DOS, right? Denial of service, or DDoS, which is distributed denial of service. So DOS is simply denial of service attack. Is that like, of course there are shitty people in the world whose focus is on making making other stuff break rather than building something. But of course we have to admit what the world is and thrive in that. So often there are people who might launch a denial of service attack on your services, right? Which simply means, what does denial of services mean? That let's say if you have a shop and you know that their shop can only cater to 10 customers at a time. You only have, let's say, 4 or 5 shop assistants. They can cater to 10 customers at a time. Now, let's say there was a weird person who says, I want to make sure कि इस बंदे की दुकान से कुछ नहीं बिके. So what he can do is, he can start sending thousands of fake customers to your shop every hour. What they will do is, they will come, they will just waste time of your shopping assistants and not buy anything. They will waste their 10 minutes and then go, right? They will not buy anything. So the real customers who are trying to come to your shop, they will see a huge line in front of your shop. They might wait for some time and then they will leave, right? That, all right, like, maybe I'll buy from the next shop. So effectively, the real customers are not able to buy from your shop because there's a huge queue created in front of your shop. And, people who are actually queuing up, they are not really people you want at your shop. They are just, they are random people. So how could one do that for your online services? Right now, let's say let's take example of InterviewBit. Now there are genuine people, or let's say Scaler, that there are genuine people who want to come, learn, and do stuff here, right? Now let's say, and we know that our systems are capable to serve 10,000 or 100,000 live users at the same time. There can be 100,000 people studying at the same time using InterviewBit, and our servers will work fine. We know that it is very hard in India, even if there are, let's say, 10 lakhs or 20 lakhs students at a time, only 1 or 2 lakhs will want to study parallelly. So our systems are capable of that. So our systems, we have only built systems, in a way where that can be catered, right? Now let's say there's a shitty person and he starts sending a lot of fake requests. There are a lot of fake requests that are being sent, right? Which exceeds, 1 lakh requests that we can handle, right? So naturally, when the genuine person comes, then the site might be down. It might say that, site is not opening. It is just forever loading, right? So that is just denial of service. Now, to create that volume of request, it is very hard for one to create this volume of request from one computer, right? So what these hackers, or I would rather call them not hackers but shitty people, they do is that they will create a botnet. Like often you might install certain browser on your browser. You might install some plugin or extension on your browser, or you might install some app on your mobile, which might not be actually genuine apps. These might be, that these hacks, these hacking applications created by, these people who operate botnets. And these applications might start sending, let's say now I am a person, I am a black hat hacker, and I just do shitty stuff to earn money. And let's say there is someone who want me to take Zomato down. I am, let's say, for whatever reason, I want to take Zomato down. I paid money to this bad person. He has botnet created. He has created some shitty mobile application that he got installed into mobiles of 10 million people. And from his computer, he can say that all those mobile phones start sending requests to Zomato.com. When that is happening, so there will be so many fake requests going to Zomato or InterviewBait from these people who don't even know that their phones are sending these requests, right? And this is distributed in out of service, because now there is no users. It is very hard to identify that these requests are coming from so many different IPs that even for InterviewBait it is hard to know which are genuine, which are not genuine, right? Because even people from whose mobiles or browsers these requests are coming, they themselves not know that these requests are being sent from their devices. They might be very well genuine users as well, right? So it gets even harder to kind of tackle them. But again, throttling, the point we were talking about earlier, throttling helps with that. That if there are requests coming at a very high volume from a single IP, like for example in InterviewBit as well, we have that if you start sending request above a certain rate, which we know cannot be a genuine user, then automatically it will present you a captcha that fill this captcha, only then I'm going to serve future request of yours.
Correct,
right?
correct.
So then that way
Make
DDoS
sure
can
it's
be
a human
avoided.
being.
Yeah. So that prove to me that you are a human, and if you prove to me you are a human, only then I will let you access my services now onwards. Now, of course, there's another bad, flip side to that. That often in colleges, campuses, institutional campuses, often what happens is that everyone in the college is behind a proxy. What proxy means is that there's a singular IP to the outside world, and everyone in the college is behind that singular IP, right? So to InterviewBait, it will seem like that all these high volume of requests, which are all genuine requests, are coming from one single IP, right? Which is the IP of that college campus, right?
College,
So then there are also ways to kind of handle that. That of course you can create. Let's say for example at InterviewBait, we kind of whitelisted that these are, let's say, set of 50 IPs. We know these are the campus IPs of these most popular, biggest campuses in India. And we are not going to throttle requests coming from these colleges. At least, or we can say that the throttle limits are going to be much higher if the requests are coming from these places. But if we see very high rate of requests coming from any other IP, then there will be a throttle deployed, which is, prove yourself that a human, and then only you can use the services.
Yeah. That college thing, we also used to face similar thing whenever we used to had some competition or something, and the competition would stop working because their IP would get blacklisted very early because all the requests coming in from same campus LAN network.
Right.
Before I actually move to other questions, I have a few more, but there was a very interesting question that came up on the chat. So. And I feel it's a super important question to answer to yourself as a techie as well. So Ashok feels that if in your tech team you are the only one who is always solving the problems, then what's the path to growth?
Yeah. No, so one Ashok, of course, I do say that there is not, like, of course, we all as a human, we all learn from people around us. There is always a lot to learn from people around us, right? But even if you do not have, if you are the only one, in the team, that's okay, because, as there is this concept of first place, second place, third place, right? That Your office might be the place where you can be surrounded by people and learn from them. But even if not, there are various online communities that you can be part of. Like, to be very candid, we are very proud of the Scalar community, where like people might not have the most inspiring people around them at work, but in the Scalar communities they thrive. They are able to have great conversations, great discussions. So getting involved with, like, internet is a superpower, of course. And what it has done is that it has kind of made the entire ecosystem open field. We can get connected to the most inspiring people. For example, like, I do believe that here we are able to converse so I think getting involved in even online communities, the right kind of online communities, where there are people with the right kind of experience, aspirations, etc., it does help a lot. It's not necessary that you have to be, it has to come from work itself. Sometimes it comes from work, it might come from the friend circle, it might come from the communities that you are part of.
Right. Actually, I will plug in that because you just mentioned that about communities. So I would obviously use that to plug in our Discord server. We are doing a lot of very interesting things. So we started this open source projects hub, where now a lot of people who are actually working in different companies, they have started actively participating. We actually already have our first project, which is a backend of a Twitter clone we are making. It's a social media site. We are making an open source one, and the maintainer for that is actually not from Scalar. So Subrodev, he works at Wipro, and he said I will maintain this project. Anybody who makes pull requests and all, I will handle that. And very thriving community. We are growing, and I think we are having projects which we are actually deploying to production also. So this kind of experience of what happens when things in production can go down, how to work in a team, those kind of things. So feel free to join our Discord server, participate in those projects. We also have this 100 days of code we are having on interview bit. So a lot of interesting things are happening. So community is obviously very important, where you learn from. Definitely.
Right.
Coming back to another question, so this again, after the war room is sort of the solution is found out, war room is closed down, then RCA documents are created everywhere, root cause analysis documents, and I heard most companies follow. I think this is Six Sigma, and all operational companies have this principle, like 5 whys you should ask to create an RCA. So, what are generally practices that are followed, and why do we need an RCA? Anything you can shed light on?
Right. So as we were talking earlier, that RCA is essentially root cause analysis, right? That what caused it. When things broke, of course, if there was for example, let's take an example of Kargil, right? That Kargil thing happened. We realized that there are people who have entered our territory, and now we have to repel them. At that moment, of course, the focus was on how do we repel them. We claim back our territory, right? However, the second thing would also be, which generally is not that glamorous, and we don't get hear about that much. I'm sure that our National Security Agency then would have figured out that what caused people to enter our territory at the first place, right? And then we had to work so hard to repel them, right? So at the first place, ideal would be, but that is not the question at that moment. At that moment, of course, the thing is that you repel them, but then the RCA is going to unearth the thing that what were the lapses in our processes which allowed people to enter our territory and then remain undetected for 6 months, right? So that is essentially what RCA is. Let's say system went down. At that moment in the war room, it's going to be that how do we get them back up? That's all. But once that is done, then we also do not want that we keep fighting this war every year, right? So then we are going to figure out that what was the root cause of this being happened. So companies also, all the good tier 1 product companies, they follow a very structured process for that. They will create a document out of it. They will figure out that what were the things, what were the series of events. And often these series of events are also, it's a science in itself. It's very, very complicated. The series of events, there is something called as butterfly effect in physics, right? Where like basically what butterfly effect mean is that even a butterfly flapping its wings might cause a cyclone in some different part of the world because of the cascading effects, right? So even in the software system, such things are possible, that something which doesn't look like a cause of what happened naturally But when you go in detail, when you start following the trail, then you realize that some very small minor things done, very unintentional, very innocent things done many months back might have caused it, right? So that is what
Right.
RCA do, 5 level why, that you do not just put it on this, but let's say when you are, the first question would be that, this is also a psychological structure framework, that when you are trying to find root cause of something, you have to ask why at least 5 times, right? That, let's say if I say that why did the system go down, then there would be one answer, that, like let's say databases went down, that is why system went down. Then my question would be, why did databases go down? Then might be all right. The number of requests coming to the database was too high, which was more than what databases could handle. That is why it went down. Then I would say that, why did the number of requests coming to the database went so high suddenly when earlier they were never high. So basically, at least asking why 5 times will get you to the real root cause, right?
Yeah.
So that is what we do in the root cause analysis. Exceptionally important thing, that of course, the system might have gone down, you might have immediately within 10 minutes, 30 minutes, you might have gotten it back up, but you do not want it happening every day, right? You do not want fighting that war every day, right? Similarly, let's say there were people who entered Kargil, our forces repelled them back, but we do not want that happening every single year, right? So then we will do the root cause analysis, and like for example, our defense forces, then they ensure that there is fencing done across the border, there are floodlights installed across the borders, there are sensors installed across the borders, that even if we are not patrolling those areas in the peacetime, even then if there is any movement, that gets reported, and then that can be tracked and that can be repelled before it
Right.
leads to these kind of things, right? So that is what root cause analysis is about.
Right. And it's very, I think, valuable, these documents, because in bigger teams, mostly part of onboarding also is you have to read some of the older RCAs. In
Right.
many companies, I've seen this,
Right.
that, whenever you work on a new system, you read these are 5 last RCAs, please read that. And that's important to have that context for everybody working on that system. It
Right.
becomes part of
Right.
knowledge
Right.
base.
Right. Right.
Then we have this question, which is I have been seeing recently, actually, as the work culture everywhere, tech across everything is improving. SRE roles, DevOps roles, these days, they generally have this in perks of the work, that we have blameless post-mortem culture.
Right.
And on Twitter, etc., also people
Right.
post like, can you recommend companies which have a blameless post-mortem culture? So, what is this blameless post-mortem culture?
Right.
Why
Right.
there is
Right.
so much focus on it? Why is it important?
Right, 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 right. No, so this is also an important, mindset shift, or the belief shift, that the purpose of RCA or postmortem is not finding the culprit and hanging him. That's not the purpose at all. It's nature of the any doing anything big, that things might break at one point in time,
Right.
and the nature of this is, as Jeff Bezos say at Amazon, that it's always day one, right? That we never say that we have arrived. We always behave like a young kid trying to struggle to build something, right? So things are going to break. That is part and parcel of doing big things, right? When someone is making something big, some things will break. What is important is that whenever something breaks, we learn from it. And it's not about blaming. It's not about someone, like even the best coder in the team, even the founder of the company who is a coder might make a mistake, and it might lead to things breaking, right?
Correct.
The reason is that we learn from it. The purpose of postmortem is not firing someone, not at all. So actually, even when you are working in an organization, if you are confident that you are in an organization with the right culture, like even if you know that there is something that you did that might have caused it, do not hesitate about putting it forth as quickly as you figure it out.
Right.
Never try to hide it, because in any company with good culture, you will never be hanged for it. Rather, you will be probably rewarded for the fact that you are able to come up with that, this is what I did and this might have caused this issue. Let's make sure that everyone knows that in future we shouldn't do this, right? So
Right.
as a part of a fast moving team of capable people, everything you do it with best of your intent. Even if something goes wrong because of that, there is
Right.
going to be there is a value that can be created out of that, which is the learning that this thing cannot happen ever again, right? So never try to
Right.
hide. because it's as we say that it's blameless mortem, right? I can share my personal story here. I think this was 2012, and we basically had like now of course AWS has a lot of indexing services, but back then I think AWS didn't have that. So we had our own cluster of servers running. Solar is basically an indexing service.
Right.
And I was doing some stuff around that, and for whatever reason what I did was that what was the data in my local machine, I copied that over into the production system. Not the
Okay.
database, but the indexes, the index server
Index.
of Solar, right? What that led to was that on production in a particular section, on production what was visible was the dummy data from my laptop. Right.
Okay.
Which is of course very stupid thing to do, and but yeah, I did that. I like until unless we break some things on production, we are not true engineers. And then it was like across the world, in our New York office, Pune office, Berlin office, everyone bells are ringing that this, what are we seeing on production? Why suddenly this content which doesn't look like, which is kind of placeholder content for text, dummy images, why are they surfacing on production, right? Which have very absurd sales price. So there might be, let's say, a photo of bunny which is being sold for $100,000 on the website, right?
Right.
But then immediately while I was not even part of the team which handles Solar, and I saw that this is happening. And then, like in the common group, I quickly typed that, guys, I had just run a script on my local machine related to Solar. Might be related. I cannot be sure it does. I am not able to connect the dots that how me running something on my laptop might cause this, right?
Right.
But then with that, we were able to fix that within 5 minutes because, if I had not spoken that out, then the production would have remained in a bad state for many, many hours, right? Or if I had tried that, let me try to cover my tracks, right? And then as an RCA, when we did RCA of that as well, I was part of the team which was then working on the RCA of that. Of course, I did it, so I'm supposed to be part of the team. Then it was very, very clear that the production credentials shouldn't be in the code base. Like it happened because the production credentials were in the code base that we were checking out. It was on my local machine. When I ran the command, there was just one command which was missing, like one parameter to the command which was missing, and it defaulted to the production credentials and pushed all the data there, right?
Got it. Yeah.
So the root cause analysis was then, like, because I was upfront about telling that this is how it happened, and there was no blame. The issue was not me running the command on my laptop. The issue was the credentials being there in the in the code base. The production credentials shouldn't be there in the code base, right? Which is a big security hole as well. So yeah, this is about blameless post-mortem, that like we all have to, like, this has to be a culture. And if you see it happening again, I would say, no matter where you are, even if you are the director of engineering or you are an intern, you should call it out that post-mortem and doing the RCA is not about blaming anyone. It is about figuring out improvement in the process.
Right. And actually, like you were saying, I think it's good for the company too, right? I mean, if you don't have a
Absolutely.
culture of blameless postmortem, then people will try
Right.
to put things under the carpet, and then you
Right,
will find
absolutely.
your solutions later rather than earlier.
Absolutely.
Right.
So this the company I used to work for, Fab, like, this is something I very fondly remember this, that our CTO Nishat, very, very inspirational person, of course, he had this weird thing that when the systems will be down, and then he will come laughing. He would say, okay, okay, क्या फट गया है, ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं, साइड डाउन है, कोई बात नहीं, चलो देखते हैं क्या फाड़े हो, बताओ. And that that is very, very important, that being able to laugh at such situations, and then, like, fine, फट गया, कोई बात नहीं, let's figure it out, let's fix it, right? And there is no blame on anyone. तुमने किया, तुमने फाड़ दिया, बहुत बढ़िया. So I think that culture is super, super important. And another important thing is that often we believe this, that the culture has to only be top to bottom, that the how CTO is behaving is going to define the culture. That is not so. Culture also gets defined bottom to top as well. No matter where you are, never hesitate to call out the right thing. Say this is how we should be as a company, what we should be as a company. Stay humble, remain open to get corrected as well. But do not just say that if there is something wrong happening and the big guys are doing it, so let me just live with that. Call it out that I believe, of course, in a polite and way where you are also open for correction. But I believe that we should do it in this way. This is what is the right way to handle this, instead of just, let's say, shouting at people or trying to shift the blame game, etc.
Right. Yeah. So interesting, actually. I mean, so at Coding Blocks also, an anecdote is, Varun, who has just joined our product team. So he was that time, I was co-founder, he was CTO, and we had a team which was largely very young people, interns mostly. So anything used to break, like चलो अच्छा चलो ऑफिस चलते हैं, and आज तो रात को बैठना पड़ेगा, तो यार मतलब किसने फाड़ा, तो भाई चलो अब तुम बिरयानी मंगाओ, और अब तो रात को यही ऑफिस में जाएगा, आज तो भी इसको ऑफ करना है. So we always try to set up that culture that let's all sit down, we'll do a hackathon and we'll fix all of these things. Let's order food, and we'll order good food and we'll eat well and fix all of that. Because solutions come in systems. Like mistakes happen by humans, but the solutions has to come in the system.
Right. Absolutely. Exactly. Actually, on that, a very interesting thing that, in our fab office of New York, we had a big board in the office which read "Make mistakes." It is totally okay to make mistakes, but keep learning, because the more mistakes you make, the more you will learn. Right. And similarly, I think this quote of Facebook was also famous in the very early days. They had actually a board with that in the office: move fast and break things. Right. That build things very quickly. It's okay if some of the things break in production. We'll we'll learn from it. We'll make sure it doesn't happen again. But let's move fast. It's okay if things break. That culture, and actually, I think that is what this culture is what led to massive success of these companies like Facebook, etc.
Right. And it is very encouraging that these days I see all the JDs for SRE DevOps team having this blameless postmortem. They are writing in big letters out there. So it's a good culture shift that across the industry it's happening. It's getting promoted. And then I think we have our final question. We have just crossed 1 hour as well. And so this is, I think, again, it's a community source question, and people have asked this actually, especially people who are in early stage startups. So when the company starts growing, so smaller tech teams, you generally have people on whom a lot of dependency is there. So if that person is out sick, then you can't even fix certain things. That only that person has credential to the production server to up something, or only that person knows exactly the certain steps that are needed. So those kind of dependencies end up existing. As teams grow, explode and grow, then this can create like a massive problem. Any tips around how to mitigate this kind of a thing as teams grow? What are the steps we should follow for this?
Right. No, so see, of course, it's pretty natural that if it is a very, very young company, there can be certain know-hows that just a person knows, right? Let's say when Interviewbit was a company with 4 people back in 2014-15, it's possible that there is some stuff that only I know, or there is some stuff that only Anshuman knows, or some stuff that only Tushar knows, right? But as a company grows, it is very, very important that we start putting the processes in place, right? When you are a small company which is being used by just 10, 20, 50,000 people, fine, even if it is down for some time, maybe, like fine, big deal. And however, the human dependency, as we say, that, we need to admit that as humans, we are very, very fragile, right? And we are not really that efficient. So it's very important that, that is why the, habit of documenting things, habit of writing things down, that is super, super important. That whatever you are doing, whatever, like it might be credentials, it might be know-how, it might be the design, that how things are together, what are the dependencies between different systems. I think the sooner a company starts this habit of documenting, it also helps with building greater clarity, right? Let's say if I am doing something and I write it down, then immediately after writing it down, I might be able to see that how it could be even better. So that is one. And second is that when I have written it down and it is a shared knowledge base across all the team, then let's say even if I'm not available, let's say if I'm out of network, or I'm not well, whatever it might be, right? As I said, that humans are very, very fragile, right? There's always someone who can say that nothing to worry, Abhimanyu, you take rest, you are not well. We will go through the documents, and we would most likely know everything. 99% of the things we would know, and we would be able to manage it, right? However, when, like, of course, we never want to be part of a team where even if I am having high fever, but only I know it, so I will have to do it. Not a good situation to be in, right? So it's very, very important to reduce the human dependency, And that doesn't mean that that makes anyone redundant. They will still be very highly relevant. For now, I may call out, I have even, like, of course, the banter across the software developers. I haven't even heard that, let's not document that so that there is, no one can fire me because only I know this. Right. But that's generally, your value is not about what facts, but your value is about what you can create, right? So that is a misconception to have, that if you just will be more relevant if you have know-how. Rather, you will be more valued in the company if you are able to set processes, create documentations, which create such a high value for the company that then company is going to say that this guy is so structured. He brings so much structure to the company and our processes. It makes us so much robust that we should give this guy promotion and more better hikes than anyone else, rather than the person who is just trying to just keep them everything to themselves, right? So even for your growth, I think to grow into leadership and keep be an important person in the team, it's a better strategy to kind of set up processes that we are going to document everything, we are going to put processes around everything, that even if I'm not around, there's nothing dependent on me.
Right. Very. Actually, I'll add to that, because recently talking to a lot of tech leaders myself as well for some product related stuff, and I keep hearing that SD1 to SD2 people say that understanding system design is important to grow. SD2 to SD3 everybody says that being able to explain to your juniors what you're doing, that is the most important skill. They say by the time you become SD2, tech wise you know almost everything. But now, are you able to explain it to other people? If you can't, then you will not go from SD2 to SD3. That's what all these tech leaders are saying. So that's super important. That I think, that's the crucial part of reducing dependency on yourself as well. Unless you can teach people, mentor other people, you won't be growing. I think great insights. We have actually just crossed an hour itself also. It's turned out to be a very interesting topic to talk about.
Absolutely.
Please share the video with other people who are starting off in their careers in technology, who would benefit from understanding. Because I know a lot of people, when I used to mentor actually undergrad students, a lot of people used to be very curious about like what is on call. I hear from my elder brother or from a senior that they are on call today, that like don't disturb me, I'm in a war room today and all that stuff. So if you other people who might be curious about these topics, please share the video with them. And stay subscribed. We talk about a lot of such interesting topics, and this is I think 5th or 6th time me and Abhimanyu we are sitting on the Saturdays. Mohit and Anshuman have been also covering a lot of interesting tech topics, so stay subscribed to the channel for these kind of topics. And another plug is that we are adding people in our tech team and instructor team. So if any one of you are interested, please look up our website. There are a lot of opportunities there. We would love to have people on our team as well.
Right. Awesome. I see one very interesting question from Farooq in the chats, that is a skiller going to expand our courses to across the borders, specifically Pakistan. Of course, we would love to, access to higher quality learning is a borderless thing. So absolutely, we would love to, not just Pakistan, but across the borders. We do intend to. Of course, however, we would do it whenever we do it. We would want to do it with the highest quality. Farooq, specifically, if you want to be part of Skiller's online learning platform, join our Discord. Given the time, time gap between India and Pakistan is not really much. It's pretty much the same time zone. You might want to explore, joining one of the cohorts for India itself. Given it's virtual, you can sit wherever you are, Karachi, Lahore, wherever you are. You might very well join. Feel free to send me a message on Discord. We'll try to figure it out if we can, start it for Pakistan sooner.
And apart from, I think, the academy, everything else like interview bit and our open source community, there are a lot of people from outside India who actually are participating in those efforts. Because payment and logistics and all of those, I think there are things to figure out, which I think, as Abhimanyu said, definitely get in touch with him. But I'll just share that the first contribution we had, the open source projects we started, first contribution came from Turkey actually.
Oh yes.
So So diverse community we have, and everybody is
Yeah.
welcome. Definitely join
Yeah.
our Discord server and love to have conversations. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and meet you again with another interesting topic which you can suggest in the comments on next Sunday then. Thank you, Abhimanyu.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, guys.